Good evening and welcome to the October meeting of the Historic Preservation Board. I'm Tom Combs, the chairperson. First item is to be the approval of the minutes, but we will need a quorum to do that. So we'll set that aside for the time being. First action item we will get started on. We have a couple of guests. Jim and Dan Whalen are here. They're the owners of property at 1880 Penfield Road, and they're here to talk about their certificate of appropriateness for a pole barn. And just noting that that their current home there is a designated historic property for the town of Penfield. So we'll invite Mr. Whalen up to the table here, or both of you if you like.
We sit here now?
Yep. And what I thought I'd do is let Mr. Whalen take us through sort of the story of his property. It's got a number of structures on it with historical significance, and then as a lead-in to the discussion about the pole barn. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. My wife and I purchased the home at 1880 Penfield Road and moved in on July 2nd, 1982, which was my daughter's first birthday. The home, we had built a new home in Penfield in Village Green North about 2 or 3 years earlier. This home was owned by a client of mine when I was a stockbroker by the name of Cedric Roundtree, who was the CEO of RT French when they were headquartered here in Rochester at 1 Mustard Street. Mr. Roundtree had several homes. This is the one that he lived in for 48 years, if I'm not mistaken. I had just completed the conversion of a nursing home into apartments. And it was a very, very difficult job. And as a result, I told my wife that I really wasn't interested in seeing this property prior to the day we acquired it, because I knew it was going to be an enormous amount of work. We did end up going through the day before, and my thoughts were confirmed. Although Mr. Roundtree was a very wealthy gentleman of English heritage, a great guy, he did not invest heavily in this property. Just to give you an example of some of the things we dealt with, it had a dirt floor. I told Tom today that after we owned it for several years, all of our family members had developed allergy problems that were related to the moisture in the basement. So we put the house up for sale, had no interest in it because of the condition, and decided to excavate the basement, make it livable, the house livable. So we did that in about 1985 or thereabouts. In the process of working in the basement, among other things, we found that the main supporting beam, there were 2 main supporting beams in the structure. One was a 12 by 12 inch hand-hewn oak beam that had cracked right down the middle, and the house sagged, and still does, about 1 inch toward the center of the property. The other beam had been removed and nothing was put in its place. So when we did the work, we dug down, put footers in under the support, and put a new steel beam in, footers in under the jack posts, and structurally And in the process, I might add, there was a huge octopus-type heating unit that was removed, and we converted it to a modern system. So all of that work was completed, and then we started on the interior of the home. We redid both bathrooms, remodeled both bathrooms, remodeled the kitchen. Important to note that we use the same footprint, and I'll get into why in a minute. The modification of the interior of the house would have been very expensive and will be very expensive to complete at some point. Interestingly, my sons Dan and Jeff have been were in the remodeling business, kitchens and bathrooms, for 20 years. So when Dan walked through and I showed him what I wanted to do the other day, he said, this is going to be very expensive, and it will. I estimate the cost of redoing the interior so that it's really functional to today's standards at probably $250,000. Excuse me, that would include some exterior work like windows. There are very large windows that have to be 150 years old that are not only oversized but unique in design. So the cost of those windows is going to be very substantial. The bottom line is that, and then we've gone through and re-drywalled 75% of the house, all new walls, new ceiling, done all of the floors. So it's been a significant project for us over the years. The house at this point, the bones of the house and the structure are better than they've ever been. Again, the remaining issue is the interior remodel, and I would like to get back to that in a minute. There are two other structures on the property, actually three, one of which is a stone wall. The other two structures, one was a barn that for many years had a second floor apartment in it because Mr. Roundtree was on the Board of Trustees of the U of R, and he used to rent it out to students, one of whom, coincidentally, was George Shaw, who lives in that beautiful yellow home with the red barns on Jackson
Our
Road.
former chair.
Yeah. He was one of the residents of that until they started having kids, and then they moved out. In 1982, I went to the town and asked to have a permit to convert that structure into a full house. And my intent at that point was to have a place for my parents to live as they got older. And in order to make it user-friendly for senior citizens, I did have a permit to move the third structure, which was a stable or a chicken coop, in and attach it to the side of the barn. That thought evaporated very quickly because when I cleaned out all of the debris that had been left on the first floor of the barn, I stood back and I looked at it and I said, boy, it looks like that structure is shifted to the right about 6 inches. So I went out, pulled off the siding on the exterior of the house, and found that when it was constructed, they laid out a rectangle of hand-hewn 12-inch beams. That served as the foundation. As the water came off the side of the house, there were no gutters on it, or of the structure, there were no gutters on it. The beams on the right side rotted out and the entire building shifted. So I had to hire a moving company to come in and raise the structure about 5 or 6 feet into the air. And during the winter of the first year in the property, I think it was it was the first year, I got underneath it every night when I got out of work and dug out the foundation by hand, and then had some masons come in. They built a new foundation and built piers. The interior of the building had 27-foot long, 4-inch by 10-inch floor joists. And those are all saved because there was no interior support. So when the masons came in, they built the exterior foundation and built piers that theoretically, when the house was lowered onto the piers and foundation, it would straighten the floor out. They did an excellent job. It was off by about 1/8 of an inch in one corner. They took a shingle, pounded it in, and it was dead level. The cost of doing that work prevented me from being able to move the third structure, the stable or chicken coop, on and attach it. I just didn't have the funds to do it at that point. So we went to the inside, did a complete interior remodel of the building, and it has been occupied, as Shannon knows. There's a little humor involved in this that I won't go into, but for 42 years. We just, my sons, Dan and Jeff, just sold their business a year ago, and we went back in to the carriage house, which is what we call it, and did a complete remodel on it. So that property at this point is an A-plus property. Everything is basically brand new and in mint condition. The third structure, the chicken coop or stable, had been forgotten, neglected. It was just a mess. It had a stone foundation that had, and also a dirt floor. The stone foundation had fallen apart, so again, we went inside, dug out the interior, poured a new foundation, built new interior walls, and that became my office for about 20 years. I worked in that structure from 1983 through 2006, at which point I went to help Dan and Jeff in their business. Once their business was sold, we've gone back into that building, upgraded it to the point where it too is in A-plus condition. Both Tom and Shannon have seen that. The third structure is one that my son Dan thinks I'm fixated on, and he's kind of correct. There's a stone wall. I neglected to give a timeline on the buildings. The stable chicken coop and the barn were erected in 1811. Our house was built in 1816. There was a structure that was built prior to that. My best guess is between 1800 and 1811. I know that it was not there in 1811 because they had a fire. It was a huge barn, and the barn was destroyed, and these structures were built in 1811, and they actually removed part of the wall to build the stable. I bring the wall up because it is I don't, you've got the picture there, the color picture.
Yep.
It's really in a lot of trouble. I have a mason coming in that's going to start rehabbing it sometime in the next week. The trees behind it have grown so large that part of the wall has been destroyed, a part that you can't see here. These parts I am aggressively working on to make sure that they are in tip-top shape, because again, I think they're beautiful. And as I said to Shannon, it's probably, those walls are probably some of the very oldest structures in town, I would think.
Were they the part of the foundation of the original bar?
They were.
That was,
Yeah, it was the foundation, and it was a very large barn. Back to my house. We were undecided on what to do with the property until about a year ago, whether we were going to sell it, keep it. If we keep it, what are we going to, how long we're going to live there? We have made a decision about a few months back, 7 or 8 months back, that we're going to leave it for our family, for the kids, which helps clarify what I want to do with the house. We didn't know, because we didn't know what direction we were heading in with the house, we didn't want to make a significant investment. Based upon our background in the remodeling business, kitchens and bath, over the last 18-plus years, my best guess is that we're looking at in the range of $250,000 on the inside of the house. There's no air conditioning. The redesign, the redesign is going to be very difficult because, among other things, the chimney is in the worst possible location in the house. It prevents a good remodel of an easy remodel of the kitchen and an easy remodel of the master bath. So those projects are going to be very, very pricey. And we have committed to do that. So I guess the point is that after lots of hesitation, and I told Tom today, I'm going to have to take a very deep breath before we start on that, but we're going to do it. My intent is to have it done, whether I do it or Dan and Jeff do it. But the intent is to keep the property and eventually do that remodel.
well, that's, I mean, it's a tremendous investment that you've made in the property. That's clear to us. You know, for us, as I think you know, what you do on the inside is not the business of the Preservation Board, but anything exterior, you know, would come to us for discussion and approval. But that brings us to the pole barn.
Right.
I think we've all had a chance to look at the pictures and the discussion about that, and it's a 4-car garage. There's the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll turn it over to the board. Any comments or questions about the plans here?
I guess I'll, do you want to go ahead? I was just going to say, I think I commend all the work that you've done to structurally keep all the buildings sound. That's amazing, so great job on that.
Thank you.
I know that's not easy work to do. I guess when it comes to this new garage, I do have some concerns that maybe some answers might help clarify or take away. So I think my first concern is that we don't have the local designation document to know what it really calls out specifically. So the only thing that I can go off of is that the local landmark would include all of the historic outbuildings, which does include the garage that's being proposed for demolition. And as you can see in the photos, it does have its historic wood siding. That garage is historic, so that needs to be part of our consideration here. A garage isn't nothing when it comes to a preservation review, especially if all we have is the exterior to look at. While the garage door has been changed out, that's pretty common on garages, but it does appear to have wood siding still.
No, that's vinyl.
Is it vinyl?
That was erected in 1988.
Oh, that barn? Okay. Interesting. And the only reason I'm asking, and this is good for clarification, is because when I was trying to figure out what is historic here and what's significant, the only thing I had to go off was the National Register nomination for the historic district, and it called out 2 detached garages, so I wasn't sure what those were as being contributing. So if that's 1989, then that curbs my questions because it's not historic.
My
Yep.
handprints from when I was 7 years old are in the concrete in the front.
Okay, no, that's good. That was my main
Were there
question, was just
fingerprints there,
when is
too?
this from? So, okay.
The,
Well, it's not historic.
did you have any additional questions?
No, that got rid of all my
The,
concerns.
the proposal involves removing the small structure, which is a shed, 16 by 16, and the related concrete pad underneath it, and the black van is, Dan, we had an RV years ago, and I had a pad poured where that black vehicle is, that the RV was parked on. Half of that is going to be removed. The other half will serve as a driveway up to the barn. So the proposal involves removal of half of the RV pad, the entire concrete pad underneath the storage shed and the shed. And the footprint, I've really struggled with where I wanted to put the pole barn, because I do not want it to in any way affect the attractiveness of the property. That was a paramount concern. So the location of the pole barn was critical in not affecting the way the yard looked too, because the backyard, we just had a lot of work done cleaning out some of the side of the yard, so the backyard is still attractive, and we don't want to affect that. Is it important to discuss the purpose of the pole barn?
Well, I think we've seen that from your application.
Okay.
It's 2 spaces for that small house and 2 spaces for your 2
Right.
old cars.
2 spaces for the residents of the carriage house. And then I have 2 old cars that I would like to put in there so that I can put our personal vehicles inside the garage, our regular garage. There is a change, and I didn't notify Tom about this, the cupolas. We've decided not to put the cupolas on the barn, so they were very pricey and don't add a lot to it, so.
Any concerns?
If I could, I'm sorry, if I can just make one more comment. The outbuildings are, in my opinion, very attractive now. And we wanted this structure to blend in with the other outbuildings. So the color selection is barn red, white trim, with a black roof. The roof pitch that we've chosen is identical to the existing other structures. It's a 612 pitch on the roof, so we want everything to kind of coordinate.
And then just for clarification, the garage doors themselves will face the same way that the garage door on the current, that's how?
Yeah,
Okay.
the garage doors will be facing our driveway.
Okay.
What's your schedule to start and finish?
Well,
Is it something you want to complete this fall?
I'm sorry?
Is it something you're wanting to complete this fall?
Yeah,
at least the demo, or-
they had an opening that occurred the week of December 8th, The excavator has to be in there prior to the barn being erected. So he's scheduled to come in, assuming we get the permit, to do the excavation and prep work mid-November. One of the reasons that it's critical is that they cannot pour the concrete floor once there's frost. So they were able to move it up from a January install and then pouring the floor in March, which I did not want to do. So now with the movement up to the erection on December 8th, the week of December 8th, that should not be a problem. In terms of duration of the project, these are Mennonites, probably 2 to 3 days. And they've done a lot of work in Penfield, by the way. They're very well known in Penfield. They've got a big project going on right now.
It's quick.
It's on Penfield Road, right?
No, Atlantic Avenue.
Atlantic Avenue. I'm not sure where on Atlantic, but
So the pad will go down prior to December 8th, or that would be the latest that it could?
I'm
go
sorry?
down? The concrete pad?
no, surprisingly, I'd actually prefer to have it poured first so that there was a 1 foot or so perimeter around to avoid the kind of problems that you and I have with squirrels. But that's not the way they do it. They erect it and then pour the floor once the structure is up. Surprising.
Yeah.
So,
And what are the walls made of?
walls,
Yeah.
they're metal. It's all metal.
They're metal?
As a matter of fact, and this was unintentional, seriously it was, if you take a look at those pictures, there's a picture from the back of our property all across Penfield Road. You'll see a red barn that's almost a duplicate at Strawberry Castle, almost a duplicate of what we're doing.
I remember when we approved that,
Yeah,
a long time ago.
yep.
A while ago.
Now, we do have a problem. We don't have a quorum. So we're not going to be able to make an official vote. I don't know if there's a way we can do that afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'll have to check, but if you guys want to give your impressions without an official vote, and then it's kind of what we did last time, unfortunately, so, and then we'll get the official vote soon.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, now that I know that's not a historic garage, even then, it wasn't necessarily going to be a no for me if it was, but I was just curious. But now that I know that, I think that it's a good project. I actually sort of, even though the cupolas always look nice, I kind of like that you're not putting them on, just because the historic buildings, they don't really have any. So
Oh,
it kind
really?
of keeps it a little bit more, I don't know, in character with the buildings that are there.
Right, and the other structures don't have them, so.
And I think that it's a very workable plan, and I repeat again, I think it's amazing the time and the money that you put into the property.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful, beautiful house.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, then we can't, I guess we have quote-unquote votes from everyone, but we're going to have to wait till we can get
No
a quorum
problem.
together. But
Okay.
we appreciate you coming and taking us through some of this.
Thank you very much, and thanks for
Yeah.
listening to us.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, our next item, we'll move right along. Ron Reed is here to, this isn't something that we're going to have to vote on. I think he just wants to bring us up to date, or maybe ask our advice on something. So the table is yours.
Correct, nothing that requires your quorum. And I've got actually a bunch of topics that was very interesting, and nothing nearly as exciting as what Mr. Whalen had there for us. first item, and most importantly, I think, is the misspelling of my name on your agenda.
Okay,
I before E.
sure.
So, thank you. So I'd hoped to have my ducks more in a row here tonight and come with an application for a certificate of appropriateness for a new roof, but things happened and that didn't pan out quite as expected. And it's a topic that we've talked about before here. I've come and felt the town board out, or the Historic Preservation Board out about materials for the roof. Right now, it's roofed with a 3-tab asphalt shingle, very basic, and I'm in need of a new roof on the main structure. The wing is relatively new, although that's starting to show some age too already. So I guess my question to the board to start with regarding roofing materials, as I understand it, anything that changes what's currently there, I need to seek approval. One of my options is to install a metal roof, and there's a bunch of options there, and well, some details that I need to work out particular to my house, specifically the trim, how the edges get finished, because I'm not sure that you can really appreciate it. Well, zooming in, I guess, helps you see it. Standard metal roofs have edge details that would overwhelm the wood details that are on the house. So I'm struggling to find a metal product that really would be suitable for the house and not compromise the molding details that I have. Sorry, somewhere in there's a question about what sort of hoops am I going to have to jump through, I guess, if I do decide on a metal roof. Is it just a matter of presenting the material and showing it to you to get that approval, or I'm trying to anticipate questions that will come up when I finally have a material choice to present to the board. So I was hoping to engage and get a discussion going on that.
That's asphalt roof now, is it?
Correct.
Okay.
So, sorry, before I let you answer or throw out an answer, again, the roof that's on there, the last roof that the Halls put on before they vacated the property, again, the asphalt roof, as basic as you can get. So anything that I put on there, in my opinion, is going to be an upgrade and only enhance the property. So I'm wondering, again, what you guys are looking for in terms of my selections. My fear is that I come in here and the board says, well, that's not quite what we were expecting, or what we don't think it's appropriate for the house. And again, I'm trying to get a feel for what you're interested in seeing.
Well, it almost sounds like you're asking for a decision, and of course, we can't do that without knowing what you want to do.
Well,
I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is are there metal roofs out there now that look like shingles?
There are, and those come in a variety of flavors. Again, the issue with, well, both the shingle look and the like a standing seam, a sheet good type roof, is that the edges need to be captured, and the trim work that I found for those types of metal roofs are large. They wrap around on the order of 4 or 5 inches, 3-4 inches maybe, and that would cover up some of the wood that's on that's part of the Greek Revival detailing. And yeah, sorry, maybe this does require another visit with you guys with some more detailed drawings and things like that.
I think there is some initial guidance we could give, and
Okay.
that's that, with your current 3-tab roof, I know 3-tab shingles are kind of on their way out. A lot of companies are going to stop making them. Some of them have already stopped kind of offering them. They don't
Yep.
have great warranty anymore because of it. So really, if you're going asphalt shingle, it's an architectural shingle, which
And
is
sorry,
kind
I
of what
lumped
it is
that in.
today.
Yeah.
I would say, well, I can't give a decision today. I would say, Greek Revival homes didn't historically have metal roofs, so I would say my guidance would be to steer you away from that just because it's not historically appropriate for this home. I think if you're saying that it would cover some of the characteristic wood trim on it, that would also, to me, be problematic ultimately. So I'm just trying to provide you guidance without giving you a yes or no, we'd approve it, because we can't do that until we have a thing. But I guess
Sure.
I'm also trying to avoid you wasting your time with something too, I suppose, that's, frankly, we can give you guidance. And I think that's the role of this board, is to give guidance on appropriate materials. So, while we can't sit here and say, nope, that's not approved, at least my personal opinion is that Greek Revivals didn't have metal roofs. I think Tom kind of asked about, is there shingle that looks like metal? That, I think, might be something more that could be considered maybe a little more than like your standard standing seam metal roof, just because that really wouldn't be appropriate on this home. I would say if it wasn't a landmark property, I guess you could do whatever, but in this case, we're trying to preserve the character of the home, and a standing metal roof, I think, just is something I would steer you away from,
Okay.
personally.
Okay. I appreciate that commentary.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think we'd want to consider anything that would change the general appearance, which Megan spoke to as well. The trim work along the top is part of the original structure. We wouldn't want to see it covered.
Okay. And again, my intention, and I guess the hardship that I'm coming across is trying to do that. That's my mindset as well, to maintain all that, the detail and not cover it up. Okay. Again, that's good guidance. That's kind of what I was hoping to hear and what I wanted to hear. I did go out and I've had one contractor give me a quote, and that's one of the issues still with what I got from, or the discussion that I had with the contractor, was how the details, how the edges are going to get finished, and I didn't get all the clarity that I wanted out of him, and that prevented me from having that detail to present to you guys tonight. So, okay.
Ron, have you looked at the, up in the attic, at the structure of the roof? Is it capable of taking on a new roof and the weight of it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The structure's fine. So I've rebuilt it more or less from the inside. And yeah, I have no concerns with that. Any roof that I do put on will have what's currently there come off. So on the main structure, there's 3 roofs that remain on there. There's wooden shingles down at the bottom, and there's 2 layers of asphalt, and all that's coming off.
And there's like cedar shakes, is that what you mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So
and
there's a lot of stuff on there.
Whether or not that's original to the house, I don't know, but I think to your point, that's what would have been on a house of this vintage and style to begin with. So,
Which I'm not saying you would have to go back to that, obviously. Cedar shingle is very expensive, but knowing that that's there, it would have been a roofing material at one point. So I think that, just to kind of guide you in options for the roof, that could be considered an appropriate material. Asphalt shingle, obviously, because it's there. And I mean, who knows? Maybe there are metal materials out there that, depending on how the detailing works, could be
Sure.
considered.
So, not that I want to make too long a discussion out of it, but your comment about the standing seam roof not being appropriate, obviously, this house has been around a long time, and in its lifetime, standing seam roofs were an option. And again, I don't think my house had that on there, but I've come across other examples, Greek revivals, that do have metal standing seam roofs on them. So I would, if push comes to shove, I guess I would offer an argument against that commentary. But again, that's not the topic that I want to address tonight. So enough on the roof at the moment. So I've got a list of a couple other topics, and there's another structure, like Mr. Whalen, I've got 4 structures altogether on the property. The studio, the pig pen, or whatever you want to refer to it, that's...
We call it a studio back in the 60s.
So I found some other materials relating to the historic designation of my property, and there it is referred to as a pig pen. So yes, the Halls referred to it as the studio, because being the artist
Mr. Hall was an artist that
Right.
we see along the walls here.
Yes, very familiar with that. So that structure I've used for miscellaneous storage over the years. When we purchased the property, it was in pretty tough shape to begin with, and we haven't done much with it, again, other than utilize it for storage, and as we're doing construction renovations on the house, moving things back and forth. We are considering, though, renovating the structure, and kind of an open-ended question again for the board. What are your expectations on what we end up doing with that structure? Currently, it's I use the word dilapidated to describe it to some others. There's issues with the roof. Over the years, and before we got the property, you could tell where the animals have made their home in there and utilize it better than humans. So we're looking to renovate that structure too at some point in the hopefully near future.
Would the use just remain as storage?
It would be a possible, well, I guess ultimately a guest house type of thing, renovated so that it could be a usable space, a play space for my daughter.
Is that one of the buildings we can see right now? Just based on
No,
that.
it's behind,
the house.
Behind the
Okay.
house?
yeah, directly behind the gabled portion of the wing, in fact.
You know, Ron, the first thing we'd need to think about is whether the studio is in the historic district. We found out, I think a couple of years ago, that the original designation ended where the barn began, so the barn is not included.
Correct. So
That may be the same case with the studio.
that's a good lead into another bullet that I have on my to-do list here for what I want to talk about. I don't know if you recall the issues I had with my garden fence and the ordeal that I had to go through with the town board. And
Yes.
so that's all resolved, but during that ordeal, I did some investigating and found meeting minutes from old Historic Preservation Board meetings dating back to 1974, when our house was designated a landmark. And there I found the description that Mrs. Hall and whoever was chairman of the board at the time came together on. And unfortunately, fortunately, the studio is part of that historic designation as I read it. So I think it falls under your jurisdiction, and that's kind of why
No, we're
I'm
glad you
throwing
did the research.
well, actually, again, a bunch of questions that I have, but, and one that you kind of led into trying to investigate Mr. Whalen's property. You said you couldn't come up with a written designation. Well, actually, let me hold off on that one, because that's another topic that could lead to a longer discussion. Let's talk about the studio first. It is part of your historic, or the designation of the historic property. The current structure has the old stone foundation of the pig barn that I believe was the original use of that building. But everything that you see covered in yellow is modern construction, and I don't know exactly when it was rebuilt, but it's sawed 2x4s. There was fiberglass insulation in there. Again, a modern structure. It doesn't date back to, it's not the same vintage as the house, certainly. And I guess where I'm going with it, would the board have any issues if I were to remove the wooden structure, reuse the foundation, and build a new timber frame structure, something on top of it that would replicate what you see there in terms of size, but a new structure? Would that be appropriate in the eyes of the Historic Preservation Board?
I would say probably not. Broadly, if you were going to take the whole structure down and put a new one in there, well, that's not preservation.
I guess,
It-
yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious why it was designated with the landmark designation then, or when that change happened, because if it's all modern construction, so I would say even remotely around 1974 when this property was designated, I don't know why that would have been included as a historic building then, because it wouldn't have been historic. So yeah,
I would remember if it had been redone in '74, for sure. So I don't know when the changes that you're suggesting would
So,
have happened.
Again, if I look at there's a crawl space underneath there. The first floor, or the floor level in there, is at the top of the stone foundation. There's a crawl space underneath it, and there you can see older, I want to say a timber frame type structure with some 2x4s and other lumber in there. But then on top of it, the wooden structure above is common 2x4s. Again, I can't tell vintage from what I see, but it doesn't date back, and it certainly isn't the same vintage as the house.
So none of the structure is old?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Anything above the stone?
Old, 1974.
Well-
I agree with you there, or I can buy into that, but it doesn't have the dated history as the rest of the house.
so I guess my main question would be for that is, when was that change made? If it happened around 1974, then, what do we as a board consider historic now? Because technically, even, let's just say, for example, that change happened in 1974. I know you said that you would have remembered that, and you don't remember that.
I think we would. I
But-
mean, we weren't playing in it in '74, we were playing in it in the '60s, but
Yeah,
I
so
think I
even if it
remember.
happened in 1974, I would say, depending on how we define historic here for our local designations, the National Park Service that kind of sets the national standard that a lot of designations locally are based off of. It has like a 50-year rule, so meaning 50 years and older. So if this was done in 1974, it could be, and it was included in the designation, then I guess we could look at it as historic now, but I guess we make that call as a board.
I think we'd probably want to look at the original designation and see what documentation we can find. I mean, as far as finding photographs, that might be difficult, but see, hopefully because this building is individually designated, maybe we have more than we would on some of the other buildings in Penfield, just because of its historic status. So I think our best bet would be to contact the local history room, pull as much information as we can possibly find, and make an educated decision as a board.
So your comment there, the local history room is your resource for materials like that?
Yes, they keep all of the Penfield records
All right,
as
so
far as stuff like this.
I've spent many hours
Sure.
in there, and I know my folder very well. And I think I've photocopied most of what's in there. Nothing really addresses the south structure in great detail, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm
So we'll
curious
look at-
what other resources you might have.
We would look at that, and then whatever other town records that we have on file. So we have a very large database, and if it's only in the 70s, we possibly could have something. So we would just have to do some research within our internal records on that.
If
See
it
what we
was,
can
if
come
it
up
was a
with.
total rebuild in '74, and maybe I was away at college at the time and didn't see it happening, but would they have needed a permit?
They would have needed
So
a
it'd be a
permit. Whether or
building
not they
permit.
got one is a whole other topic.
Well, but it'd be
Especially
something to look
in
for.
that date, yeah, in that date range, I would say it's probably a little difficult to find a permit, even though it would have been required. But it's possible. I mean, we found permits from 1982 for Jim Whalen's property, and I was shocked to find those, and they were very, very helpful. So maybe, we just don't know when we get a little bit farther back on how extensive our records were, and how strict we were about making people get permits at the time. So I think it'll just take some research to see what we can find, and then pull all the information that we have, and the board would make an educated decision based on that research.
Okay. All right, I guess more to follow on that topic. Regarding historical paperwork and stuff like that, again, what I have in front of me that led me to the conclusion that that barn or that building was part of the historic designation came out of meeting minutes that, again, back when I was having my garden issue, the fence issue, I was able to find online, and past couple of days now I've been searching, trying to relocate it. I have this printed copy, and I think somewhere on my computer I've got the PDF that generated this, but has something changed recently with town records, with meeting minutes in particular from Historic Preservation Board meetings that prevent me from locating this again? Because I spent a couple hours searching. I know, I'm almost certain it was through a search tool that the town website had on it, where I was able to look up my address and obtain these meeting minutes from 1974. And again, I can recall reading through stuff, I think back to, well, I don't know if I went back much beyond 74, because that's when I finally found stuff relevant to my property.
So you found those online?
Yes.
The paper is probably around somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, so your best bet is, yeah, if you can't find something on the website, then yeah, visiting the local history room or putting in a FOIL request with the clerk's office to pull as many records as we have. But as far as digging through physical paperwork, it gets a little bit more difficult as far as finding information, unless we're looking for something specific.
Okay. So that was a topic, too, that I wanted to bring up for myself, for other homeowners in the town that has to deal with you guys. I'm offering it as a suggestion, I guess, that the Historic Preservation Board assemble these materials and make them easier for people like me to get a hold of, to do this investigation. And I think that falls on your jurisdiction. It's stuff that you guys ought to do as part of the Historic Preservation Board that has authority over homeowners like myself. So, a
Noted.
suggestion.
Thank you.
Trying to sort through my list and, again, see what else is worth talking about now. Landscaping for properties like mine. Again, you guys have authority over external things, and I believe that includes landscaping. If I change up the front garden, is that something that I need to come and get approval from you guys to do?
I guess it depends on what you want to do.
Change up the plantings that are there, in my opinion, enhance the front view.
I don't know if we have purview on
I was going to say, if we have,
gardens and trees and things like that.
I would think, well, just my experience working in the professional world of what I do with historic preservation boards, if we have purview of the exterior site and not just the building, then I think technically we would have to review landscape plans. However, this is just my opinion, so tell me if you think I'm wrong, or Shannon or whoever. I would think if you were just trying to pull out some of the plants like in the front of the house there that are there and replace them with a new plant, I don't really see why our board would have an issue with that at all. I think if you were starting to put in kind of hardscaping with the landscape, that's when we might.
I think well said.
Right.
I mean, yeah, if it's that kind of thing, but if it's the bushes in the front, or you want to put a tree in the front where there used to be trees, I don't think we'd have an issue with that.
I would agree.
I like the little copper beech, though,
Thank you. Growing nicely, actually.
and then slowly.
Now, surprisingly quicker than I thought it would. It's doubled in height already, year and a half, 2 years. Anyways,
Does that give you guidance on that?
pardon?
Does that give you enough guidance on the landscaping?
Yeah, although the hardscaping part causes me to pause for a second, because where the covered porch is there, the little L that's formed there, I don't know, I don't have photographs, and I wasn't around to see what it looked like when the Halls occupied the house, and maybe you have some insight here, Tom, but
Looks exactly like I remember it.
underneath, so right now that L is the garden right in the corner, and then the grass that we have to cut. Underneath that grass, though, there are stone slabs, kind of like the patio that's on the back side of the house, that's, again, now grown over and covered with grass. So years ago, I went and I chiseled away a bunch of the grass, and my wife didn't appreciate that. She wanted it was supposed to be a green lawn. But the uncovering that I did seemed to indicate that there was a stone patio type feature underneath that grass. And I can kind of see the extent of it, because when we have the dry spells, it browns off.
First to
Yeah.
turn brown, right?
Correct. So if I were to uncover that, is that something, so that to me is hardscaping. Is that something that I need to come and talk to you guys about?
Do you think it's flat? I mean, there's quite a slant to that.
No, there's so it kind of forms a scalloped corner in there with the garden behind it. Some little more substantial than just stepping stones.
It would seem to me that would be awfully old. It wasn't there in 1959. So it was grass, it was grass at that point.
I would almost think if there was some type of stone feature there and the stones are there, I mean, let me know what you guys think, but guidance-wise, I'm thinking, to me, I would personally consider that just maintenance of the lawn because the grass grew over it at some point, so it was a feature there. So I wouldn't really have any heartburn over the grass being removed to expose that, I suppose, because I would consider that kind of cleaning up a hardscape that's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if it was something like you were putting in new stones or you wanted to make it larger, that's when
Yeah.
for me at least, that's when I would think we'd have to.
Do you have
Yeah, I
any
think
idea how
physically,
big the area
yeah.
is that the stone is in?
It probably extends from the corner, maybe 12, 15 feet, if that.
Oh, so it's pretty large. How deep was the soil over it?
No, but if you go there now and try to scrape off the stones, it's probably got 3 inches worth of accumulated soil and grass clippings and stuff.
So it could have just grown over then over the years.
Correct. Anyways, all right, maybe I'll combine it again into a nice long visit here where I get a plan together and we talk. It looks like you're open to discussion like that anyways. Okay, the other thing on my list that I wanted to address here was, no, wait a second. Just general questions that I had. I noticed on the website that there's a Historic Preservation Day coming up. Is that still on the calendar?
I think that's from a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, there's
Then I
nothing on the
misread it.
calendar right now
Okay.
for events.
Then I'm glad. I don't feel slighted then that I wasn't invited. The last 2 things, I guess, are suggestions again for the board that I'd like to throw out there. One has to deal with how you guys communicate with owners like me. Bluntly, you guys, you don't, unless we have issues, unless we have a change to make or something like that. I don't see much interaction between the Historic Preservation Board and the owners of historic landmarks in the town. And that's something that I think should change or should be addressed at least. I think as a board, you guys need to engage the historic preservation homeowners and make it worthwhile for us to want to continue. And this isn't coming out right the way I'm saying it, so forgive me for my lack of eloquence, but I see the Historic Preservation Board as a policing entity. You guys are like the zoning board and others where we have to come and ask your permission to do things with our property. You don't, sorry, again, I'm lacking words here, or the proper words to express my thoughts. Coming before you guys shouldn't be a hardship. I think that's what I want to say. And maybe as a board, you can think about it in the time between meetings and consider how you might be more receptive to the homeowners, or the owners of the historic properties in the town. And there's one example that kind of ruffled my feathers and got me thinking along these lines, and that was how you dealt with Matt Sharp a while ago. And I know I'm sure there was some doings that I wasn't exposed to, but the things that I saw with that whole situation, didn't give me a good feeling about the Historic Preservation Board and the way you dealt with him. So I wanted to,
That was 2152 5 Mile Line Road, the project where the whole house was remodeled without permission.
correct. And
Yes.
That's,
I will say, the Historic Preservation Board is also a legal board, just like the town board, planning board, and zoning board. So technically, more of a policing type board. But I would say we're very receptive to the public, like letting you come to the meeting and have an open discussion about projects. And we take considerations as they come in, but we don't really get many. We have had many events. I have put on a couple since I've been the liaison to the board, and we have invited the public, and we don't get a lot of response. So we really do try, and if you have specific suggestions, we would love them.
so, thank you, another good lead-in for stuff that was on my mind. You opened things up to the public, and like this, my mistake about Historic Preservation Day, the October 8th.
Yep.
Must have been 2024, last year or the year before?
I think it was 2 years ago.
So sorry about that, but, right, it was open to the general public. My opinion was, back then when I found out about it, that was something that should have been directed specifically to homeowners of historic properties, and then in addition to the general invitation for the public.
It was. It was sent to home, I sent out the postcards. They were sent specifically to all of the homeowners of designated properties in Penfield, and then it was open to the public from there. And it was directed to historic homeowners in Penfield because it was specifically talking about certificates of appropriateness and designations, and then how to deal with your historic properties. So I would say that it was
All right, then I owe
basically
you an
100%
apology.
directed towards
Excuse me, then
that group. Did you attend?
Yes, but I don't recall.
Okay, we had
The
3
invitation
speakers.
and-
Megan was one of them.
Right.
Talking about designation and how to handle your historic properties. So it was actually directed specifically to local landmark homeowners.
Including you, obviously.
Yes.
And I believe it was
Obviously, and
on the web for the public,
again, I
too.
apologize if for some reason, I don't recall that, and my bad.
And that our goal is to hold that every 5 years, because if we do it too frequently, it would be a little repetitive.
Of course.
So that was our second one, and so our goal is to do that every 5 years.
So along those lines, I was thinking, and another thing that I was trying to get some insight on was what's going on with the Clark House, right around the corner from my house. I wasn't able to find much information on what was happening there, and maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, but that's something that, well, my thought was, given the fact that I wasn't able to find stuff, and as a owner of a historic house like that, and knowing what's going on, or seeing what's going on over there, that might be something where you could have a reception, a gathering, invite historic property owners maybe to come and take a look and see what's happening at a town thing. And obviously, there's logistics issues involved with something like that, but food for thought.
I mean, so all the documentation for that project are on the website, all the renderings and all the project information. And then all of the updates have been talked about at the Historic Preservation Board meetings monthly.
There's
And
been
then
an
if any-
enormous amount of.
Oh, yeah, we've had a lot of
written on those
discussion.
from our minutes going back even 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, but we've been talking about it, I think, monthly at this point. And if you have specific questions, you can reach out to the town.
Okay.
But we can't let people on an active construction
They
site.
don't even let me in there.
Okay.
So,
One last comment then regarding minutes. How often do they get uploaded to the website? 'Cause-
monthly.
Oh,
There was a lapse a few months ago.
and they
Okay.
have all been updated. I think we don't have a quorum tonight, so last month's meeting won't be updated, but they should be there monthly. They should be up there every month. So there might be a slight delay because this meeting, the minutes for this meeting won't be approved until November. So the meeting minutes for tonight won't be available till November
So I'm
because they're not approved by the board.
pretty sure that it was only February and March meeting minutes from 2025 that were on the website.
We had a couple of meeting cancellations, so those might be
Okay.
missing for that reason.
Agendas were there, but minutes weren't.
Okay, I'll double check, but they should be there monthly.
Okay. I think that's all I have for tonight.
All right, if there's no further discussion,
Oh, and I got the 2026 meeting schedule out to everyone, and I believe it's posted on the website as well. Right now, the January meeting falls on a holiday, so we will not be having a January meeting as scheduled unless there is an application in front of us, in which day I'll find a make-up date. But otherwise, the meeting schedule for 2026 is finalized.
okay.
That's all I
We have
have.
a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you.
All set, thanks.
We are adjourned.